hey guys, that's a distraction straight from the enemy. And so if you were on there, I'm so sorry about that.
Let me text Mary and Amanda, tell them to tell people.
Do you have Jackie's number?
No.
If you were on there, we're hopping on a new live to go right back into what Chris was saying, because I absolutely believe it's because of what he was saying. And hopefully we'll catch some of you guys here. Did you guys make it over?
Maybe I did read the rest of your book the other day.
And no response? The re-trauma. Hi! Okay, we're going right back into this. Go, babe.
Can you put on the stand? I know you don't want to do that.
Because I want to make sure you can hear it. Just go.
Okay. Anyway, sorry about all that. Amanda's there, Teresa.
Just,
Okay.
it's delayed. You're seeing it like a couple,
Okay.
yeah, a little bit later.
I just wonder, like, anyway, I was saying Tim Ross has been talking about it. And I just think sometimes that, and he even mentioned there's some guys, and these are people you may not know, like Carl Lentz, and there's some other people that have fallen, that were pretty much in the limelight. And like Carl now is at Transformation Church. He went through a long restoration process, a lot of healing, and from what I have learned, and now he's on staff, or I think he's on staff at Transformation, and a lot of people are upset about it. And it's just like, at what point do you quit being God and judging people and telling them that they don't deserve or whatever to be back in ministry, or they can't minister to people, or at what point do you allow God to give grace and be who God is, and you trust God and you take care of your business, or as Stacey likes to say, you stay in your own yard and just allow God to love you well, teach you. And because at the end of the day, whether you agree with someone like him or anybody that you can think of, God's in control. And if God has and he can take a people down when he wants to. We've been reading about it over and over. And when he wants to take someone out or take them down, he does. And so, I feel like sometimes as the church that we have got to learn to give grace and love people like Christ did. And that's freaking hard because people are messy. We are messy. We have junk. We have stuff. We have trauma, as Stacey would say. Like, we have it. And so it's messy. And so when you want to be in the people business and you want to be in church and you want to love on people well, and you wonder why so many people have turned away from the church, it's just like we as believers, in my opinion, have got to do I don't want to say better job, because that sounds like everybody hasn't done a good job, but we have got to love people well, and we have to love them in their mess. And because whether you love them or not, God does. Whether you're going to give them grace or not, God does. And whether just like what we just read, the sentence went from I'm destroying them to they humble themselves and I'm not going to destroy them, like that fast. And so,
Yeah. And Jackie, this is so true because this is not every situation. I also think that on the flip side, there are a lot of
well, Well, I didn't see what she said, so I was.
She said, I just don't go there if I disagree with them. I'm going to do it like this so we can see both of us. I just don't go there if I disagree with them. Like our past pastor who had broken our church, and he kept trying again being a pastor, but he is a very manipulative and just hard to follow again, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Same Jackie from Teresa. We are called to love others, not necessarily follow them.
Right.
Guys, this is really important because it is what Chris is saying is true, and it's powerful, and we have to be discerning. I had read something one time on how pastors are some of the most narcissistic people, and this was a poll, not a poll, but some kind of a study that was done on how the development of the ego continues as they are leading worshipers, right? And the blinds get blurred, the blinds get blurred, the lines get blurred. And I also, for example, with the guy Carl Lentz, my take is I don't think they were wrong for removing him.
Right.
And I don't think they were wrong, transformation, for taking them in. Once you've led somewhere, just like Jackie said, it's really hard to continue to lead the same people when you have broken their trust.
Sure.
And so both are true. That's all I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think about Charlie Hall. I mean, I just came, like, Charlie was in a marriage, things went bad. Charlie Hall was, if you don't know who he was, worship leader, phenomenal worship leader.
Is
Yeah, I mean, the guy's amazing.
is still. He's at frontline.
Yeah, so, and, goes through a divorce. And what I saw from the church where he was at, which was at Frontline, I watched how that church loved him through what he went through, and even his ex-wife loved them, and it looked different for both because of where they were at in their heart and what was going on. But there was a time of restoration. There was a time where it was just him being healed and restored, and he stepped away from things for a while. And as God brought healing and restoration, and he walked through a lot of things for himself personally, and then God put him back, and eventually into doing what he had called him to do. But he walked through that well, and the church walked through it well with him. They did a phenomenal job, in my opinion.
I would also add to that. Sorry.
No, so it was awesome to see him do that and how the restoration came about. But there was a time of separation and of trying to figure it out and walking through all the healing because he was hurt. There's a lot of hurt. And so I think sometimes that can happen where it's just skipped, like it just gets overlooked. And we try to just hide it. And then, like Jackie said, then all of a sudden they're just put back in another position. And that's not healthy either because there was never any healing. Because the healing is not just healing the heart. It is healing the heart, but it's also personal healing and letting God to do some inner work healing, right? Of what Stacey talks about. There could be some control issues or narcissism or whatever's going on. There's a lot going on there. So anyway, go ahead, babe. Sorry.
I would just also say two things about the human heart and what I saw in that situation. They loved him well. And I would also share that I believe that community of leaders is much, much more permissive of a lot of things that even I would say sometimes to a fault, or to a, I'm not going to say to a fault, I'm going to say to a deterrent of their witness. And that's humanity. People that are more permissive with themselves are more permissive of others. The other thing is, he didn't sin. Charlie didn't sin. He was.
Be careful. In that, he's a sinner. Like, he probably had his stuff too. I understand what you're saying.
The situation you're talking about is an issue in their marriage in which she betrayed him.
Right.
And so it's also a lot easier for us to go victim offender,
Right.
and to determine how we're going to treat people because of what label we put on them. And so I would just say, if you find yourself in any of these positions, or if you find others in those positions, really think about what Chris said, because that's the experience. That experience is very true. And also, when you, like Jackie said, when you keep trying to be a leader and pushing it, and typically a lot of people, I don't know that I normally see this in women. I'm not trying to be down on men. I'm saying I've seen a lot in men. They don't always see the need for the space. They don't always, we absolutely, in general, I'll say it this way, are not always, are rarely self-aware enough to know when we're ready to be leading again. And in our trauma and in our pain, oftentimes we misconstrue. We always try to heal something, not always, but we often try to heal something by revisiting something that symbolizes it and trying to conquer that. It's humanity. It's the trying to, well, I've got to prove that I'm still good enough for that I'm still worthy of that I'm the only way. And when our identity is caught up, which I think you could attest to this probably, but I see in men and women, if I'm fired from somewhere, or if I'm let go, it feels like rejection, whether it's right or wrong. And we have probably been put in that position because we haven't been using wisdom, right? Carl Lentz, like, wisdom was not the thing that was going on at that time. And I can think of several just leaders and pastors, like, of YouTube stories that I've watched, and there's this pattern of why are you trying to force yourself back into this space? Like, you're not wanted there right now. Let people heal and let yourself redevelop, and quit trying to reclaim your identity by trying to reclaim a position similar to what you were let go from. And I mean that in the most, what am I trying to say? Neutral way. Like, I'm simply saying, when we're hurt, we need to stop, because oftentimes we don't know how. We don't know how to go through a season of reparation and rest. When we're hurting, we oftentimes either completely dig a hole and crawl in it, or go try to find something to, bandage it. And it's like with a job, in ministry, like a dating relationship, like being brokenhearted, that rebound thing, it's real. And I'm not saying that to be judgmental or mean, or I'm saying it is a real way that we cope with life. And so just knowing all these things, being graceful to one another, and going, that can be me, that has been me, and I can do better. Just hearing from God and seeing him in the situations. And as Chris was talking about, I'm not an advocate for, I'm not going to say, well, they should stay or they should go. I think that is so situational. Yeah. However, whether it's stay or go, there should be resources and continued relationship of shepherding.
Because I think
shepherd your leaders.
That's where a lot of times, like in my situation and other people that I've known.
I have to read the recap, babe, just so you know.
In those situations, there is not, like there was in my situation, there was no let's get you counseling. Let's help you stay healthy and walk through. There was just sign here, peace out, and so just a lot of hurt, pain, and shock and not knowing what to do. Right. So, and then I think of I'll end with this. Perry Noble. Some of you may or may not know. He was at a church, huge fall. Steps away from the church has him step away. He goes through a lot of rehabilitation stuff, a lot of healing, and steps away for a while. Well, eventually people come back to him because of his because of what he went through, all the healing, and said, "Hey, we want you to start a church again." And now he has a church. I think he's in South Carolina, called Second Chance Church. That's the name of it.
You would lead a church like that.
And and it's been really cool to watch God bring that back and heal, and it's growing like crazy. But at the same time, the haters, because of the people that
Are the herders.
the one that were hurt or whatever during the last situation. Oh man, when it first came, I mean, he got some serious love, let me tell you. And he would talk about the fact that people would throw it, oh, you've been divorced, oh, you did this, you had an alcohol problem, blah, blah. I mean, just wham, wham, wham. And he talks about all the stuff. But it's cool to watch how he's handling that, because I feel like he's handled it so well because he's been going through healing and being in a place that he could do that. So, because otherwise, if you're not, you would be angry and you would react and, like our flesh would. But so anyway, just something. I didn't mean to go off on all that for that long. I just think sometimes we, as the church, when it comes to humanity and the mess that we are, we want to help people. Like you come, oh, you have a cold, okay, cool. Oh, you have a scratch, I'll put a Band-Aid. We're okay. Oh wait, you have cancer? I don't know if we want to deal with that.
Really?
Like that's really messy. And what I'm saying,
I feel like people are drawn to that because, I'm so sorry, one sec. I feel like people are drawn,
take it out of the thing.
because it's leaning back and getting more. I feel like people are, and maybe that's just my experience, sometimes drawn to the illness situations because let me tell you what, some Baptists know how to show up with some sick people, okay? They
But
know how.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't mean like the actual sick, but I'm talking about
If you're
the
sorry for
mess.
interrupting me, then
I'm talking about the mess. Okay.
I understand that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, I think part of that is because no one has trained them in how to deal with messy. We know how to show up with a meal train, with a prayer. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't have to get close to it, and we don't have to have words. But not that some don't, like that could be really uncomfortable for some. But when it comes to sin or things that we deem, I would never. I think we don't have words. And I think that's something that you could minister to and lead in and help with. Literally helping churches to have ways to show up when the sheep have gotten out.
Yeah.
How to bring them back in. That's what I think. What I learned in my own sin was, remember too, that when people are in these situations, for example, your interpretation of how it was handled was also through a lens of hurt already and through a lens of expectation. And anything in our lives, I was talking with my dad the other day, and there was something we were talking about, and it was like, he was like, I don't remember any of that. And then he brought up something that I hadn't remembered until he said it, that we had both done. And so just remember, you are typically the victim in your story. And everybody else that doesn't show up the way that you would like for them to often becomes the ones to blame or the one, because until you start taking responsibility, until you start seeing things from a less hurt perspective, it's really hard to accept correction. And oftentimes we see things and receive things through a very protective, expectant, hurting, needing comfort heart. And I think it's another thing that's missing in church organizations, period. Accountability and the actual hospital. I don't like the people that are trained to hold sinners well, and they can train others. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That just like there's the youth and there's the whatever leaders, there's the repair, the ministers of repair. That's what I think is needed. That are trained in those things, because you are hurt. And what I was trying to say, I'm sorry, let me go back to this and quickly share. In my hurt, people from my church were not saying anything. And I perceived that to mean they were awful. I perceived that to mean they were judgmental. I perceived that to mean they did not know how to love and they did not know how to be Christians. And I made up all these stories in my head simply because trauma is experienced where there is no response. And the way later, when I was able to look back and go, not my life, not yours, not that protective, but from a place of humility, and say, no, people were mad and they were hurt by my actions because I built something. And when you tear something down that's been built, it hurts. And we as sinners don't get to decide or determine that people should love us well and know how to hold us and be demanding of how other people should show up for us when we are in a place of needing correction and repair, both. In that place, I could not see anything but rejection. That's what I was looking for. And later, when I was able to come from a place of saying, I did wrong and I was responsible, and as a leader, I should have apologized to all of you. You don't get to decide that you both have influence and don't have influence. That I'm having impact today, but hey, my decision shouldn't affect you. We don't get to do that. We're affecting people. We have influence. We have impact whether we like it or not. And in that hurt, I expected rejections, and that's what it was. And later in my healing, I knew I was healed when I no longer called my ex toxic. I no longer saw him as the one to blame. I didn't have this perspective of right or wrong. I really began to see how I was showing up, or lack thereof, was just as contributive to our relationship as the way he wasn't. And magnifying his actions while minimizing mine was making me see me as the victim and not taking responsibility for my actions. And in my healing, I was also able to say, God could have fixed that. That was a big revelation. And I even said it to Chris one time, thank God for a safe husband. But I was grieving over my daughter not being home one weekend. Those were hard times. And I had realized had I had the tools, the resources, and safe space and comforting, healing response, had I had some therapy, had we learned more, had we been in therapy together, it would have been a long road. But anything is actually possible with God. And we can't decide that anything is possible and not apply it to the things that we decided to give up on. And I'm so glad I'm not there, I'm here with him. It's both. You know what I'm saying? That had I been better, maybe he would have been better. And had we really tried everything, gone to therapy, been in community with other believer couples, those things, you can't make someone do those things, let me tell you. But God could have redeemed it. And I'm really grateful that I'm not back there. These were signs of healing. And in those places, I was able to say, look back and see those people differently. I was able to say, they weren't rejecting me. Sorry, guys. They were not rejecting me. They were ill-equipped to love me in that place because they were normalized to not talking about these things, and there was no place to learn how to sit with people in repair and how to hold them in their healing and how to counsel them. I went to a great church who had no idea what to do with a woman who had committed adultery. Because the only thing that we see is not God's whatever, but a man's mentoring of his son. That's where we hear talking about the adulteress, right? So, and I didn't know that. I'm 47 years old. I didn't know that till this year. So imagine all the people in church that look at that and go, the adulteress is the worst. The worst. Sure. And not see the man as you know what I'm saying? And so they were ill-equipped they didn't even have words. I remember going to someone's wedding and it being excruciating. Thank God for that thing. I went to another wedding recently that was so redeeming with so many people from that church that showed me they loved me and hugged me. Give them some time and some of their own sin and pain and hurt, and they will see you differently. But in that, back then when it was fresh, I remember going to a wedding and a girl that I had discipled, and I had walked with her for years. And I remember being at the reception and being across the table from her getting food and her not saying anything to me. And I remember thinking of her in a bad way and thinking her parents and their judgment. But let me tell you, these people, and you don't need to have a big sin story to be a good Christian. They were good. They were gentle people. They were soft and also had no way of having any experience with this. She had no idea as a young woman how to have a conversation with a mentor who disappointed her. That's all. So just remember, we're all seeing things through our experience and the meanings and the stories that we take on. And someone might be correcting you. Oftentimes someone is doing the best they can to lead through a messy situation and is being expected to do it perfectly when literally the person they're leading just did something very imperfect and caused the mess. And let's not expect perfection from our leaders because, man, we can't do it. And the expectation and the assumption of what I would never do broke people's hearts when I did, you know? And I, as a leader now, know, let me tell you, I'm gonna mess up tomorrow. There, but for the grace of God, go I right now. Do not put me on a pedestal. We'll all fall down. But that's what happened because in developing me as a leader, there was no one to say, these are some things you should be saying to people that are following you to create boundaries, make sure that you're directing them over you and not through you, you know? And two, when you're hurting, you've got hurt glasses on and you have a big old protective barrier, and trauma is being triggered by the way people address your hurt. And the inner child is going to be seeing things just the same way they did as they were corrected when they were younger. And so just remember that. What do you think, babe?
I just want to know that was really funny.
I'm going to read
Right
something.
there. Something really funny.
I'm going to read a few of these real quick.
He's live.
We're called to love others. Okay, here we go. But of course, it's hard to determine. Yes, I'm glad you said that, Jackie. Jackie, leaders deserve grace and the opportunity to heal. And it's both. I feel there should be significant evidence of change before being allowed to lead again. I agree. And significant space to just simply heal without the achievement of
So,
any.
so let me ask you this, and I'm not saying I disagree with you, but just little caveat to that. Peter denies Christ 3 days later, or
Well,
he denies him three times, right? And then within what, a day or two, I mean, he ends up coming full circle, right, and saying he did identify with him, but he literally denies him. And then yet you see God still comes to him within days, and he's back. So I mean, it's God.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Jesus, it's God.
right.
And also, he doesn't have him leading people. He has him close to him. He has him back into discipleship.
Yeah, but Peter was a leader. What I'm saying though is,
But after
no,
that, I'm sorry.
I mean, he continued, like after Peter was, he was a very strong leader, I feel like. Now, oops.
Sorry.
Anyway, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I'm just saying sometimes it's like,
That was Jesus. That's the
yeah,
difference.
it's just,
Because
but when you think about scripture, sometimes how God was so quick to forgive and move forward, but again, it's God. Okay.
And I don't
So-
see those people. We need to look into that. How were they? Because I see that as God bringing him back into the family and not being disconnected. But I don't see him leading anything.
Well, and I also, what I would say is that Peter's heart probably was shattered. He knew what he did. He knew full well of his sin. And not only did he know he broke his heart, he broke, Jesus' heart. I think he full well, you know what I mean? Like there was a genuine, probably just complete brokenness of recognizing his sin.
A lot of people are put into leadership positions prematurely or for the wrong reasons because there's a need. Let me tell you what, quit putting the closest person you can reach and who's available into positions because there's a need. I need someone to be here. I need this to be filled. Like, just cancel it. Don't be putting the wrong person in these places. A lot of people are clout, ego. Another reason why I think we as women need to see the evidence, because we have experienced fathers, brothers, husbands, men in the workplace. And I think we see oftentimes leadership without actual leadership development, or maybe somebody was a leader at one point, they've done nothing to like get those continuing education and just think they're just still a leader, but they're actually not. They're just because you are over people does not make you a leader. Well, a spiritual leader anyway. A lot of people are okay. And accountability. The church should be a place for healing. If a member is suffering, yes, support, rehabilitation. And they shouldn't be thrown away like a buffet or cherry picking, right? That hasn't been my experience with Baptist. Baptists know how to help. Okay, I feel you on that.
Keep reading.
But I'm on a comment that's important.
Just funny.
I would not say the same, Mary, in some instances. I would just say they know how to show up with food and sometimes call a prayer. Anyway, I feel you. I see what, yeah. Because it's been praised in the public and punished in private, and no one sees how it's conducted in a healthy way. Mary, mine was Baptist, know how to eat and send food, but aren't very good at showing up in other ways. It's been shame and condemnation with a side of fried chicken.
That's what I'm saying.
That's experience too. Shame, condemnation with a side of fried chicken. Girls! Maybe they didn't know how to help because at that place, like you said, people got in between with the helping one another. My Baptist experience drove me hard and fast away from God. I wanted nothing to do with people but who claimed to follow him. Being publicly shamed by the pastor in 2 Sunday services had me done. It's still a place that needs work. That's why Teresa, I just leave a place if I see this. It's not like love of Christ. I'm sorry that happened. I am too sorry, Teresa. I'm too sorry. And Mary. It's not his heart. That's good, Stacey. Ill-equipped. What's Chris thinking? Oh, I asked him.
No, I do want to say something real quick.
Good point, Chris, but maybe that's because God knew Peter's heart condition.
Right.
And he didn't exclude him, and he knew the future. We as humans don't.
Right. Exactly. I agree. So here's what I would say. We talk about some of the churches and like in your situation, people not knowing what to say. And I think you alluded to this, is I don't think when you go to seminary and you take all your Bible classes and you do all the stuff, they don't teach you about walking through the hard, messy stuff. So you got pastors that come in that maybe haven't experienced much trauma in their life. Maybe they grew up in a great home, didn't have a lot. And so you step into a church and there's all this messy and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to handle it. So what I feel like has happened over the years, people have kind of brushed stuff under the rug and sent people on their way because we don't want to deal with the messy. And like kind of like what you said, I think sometimes pastors this is not like a personal attack. They just don't had whatever church it is, pastor or leadership come up and go, hey, we have somebody in our church that's hurting. They've been through some hard stuff. We need to pray for this family. We need to rally around this family. We need to make sure this family gets healing. We're going to make sure they go to counseling. We're going to walk them through this as a church. And we're not going to, it's not a secret. We're going to talk about it, not air all the dirty laundry, but we're going to just say, hey, we're going to hold them well. We're going to love them well. And we're going to walk through this together as a church family.
And so are you, because as a leader, you should be confidently leading others to do what you believe God is calling your congregation to do.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of churches they just don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it because it's scary and it's messy. And so had you take your situation, had happened, a pastor gets up in any church, whatever, and says, "This is what we're going to do," everybody's like, "Oh. Okay, well then when I see this person, I can go, hey, I just want you to know our family's praying for you. We're behind you. We don't know everything. We don't need to know everything, but we're here for you. That looks different, right? Those conversations look different. Those awkward situations look different because somebody that's leading has stepped up and said, this is how we're going to walk through this. Now that's easy for me to say, right? Because it's sitting here, but I just think my experience of what I've seen over the years, that's one of the things that has not happened in most churches, and not just Baptist churches. I'm talking about
Right,
in any
yeah.
church, like any church. It's something hard happens. So and so's not here anymore. Peace out. Here's the new leader. Like just bam, it happens that fast.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
We're losing
Sorry.
time and people. I want to get to the recap. Thank you, babe. Good job. Thank you for sharing. I think there's more to this to be stewarded. Just one person approaching a person in pain like that, Chris, would be the absolute game changer. 1,000%. Just one. Just one. But during the divided, here's the recap. Let's stay in this, listen exquisitely. During the divided kingdom, the 10 tribes of northern Israel reject the Levites as priests. So not only are the Levites fired from their jobs, but they're evicted from their homes too. They leave the tribal lands they've been appointed to serve and move to southern Judah. They've served under the relatively good leadership of David and Solomon, and the legacy sticks with them for a while. They've set their hearts to seek God for 3 years. They help keep southern Judah on the straight and narrow, but it eventually falls apart. It's unclear whether the hearts of the Levites also turn away from God or whether King Ray just stops caring and disregards God's laws and purposes for them. King Rehoboam has lots of wives and concubines. And as his family grows, he distributes sons throughout the region. He provides for them and finds them wives. They serve as overseers in the region, making sure his power and influence take root in every part of southern Judah. But as his power grows, his heart turns away from God. Weakness has a way of reminding us of our needs. As his power grows, his heart turns away from God. Weakness has a way of reminding us of our needs, whereas strength prompts us to lean into autonomy and forgetfulness. So good. And as the king goes, so goes the kingdom. That's so good. The people follow Rehoboam's lead and turn away from God. Then the armies of Egypt come after southern Judah because they had been unfaithful to the Lord. Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem. There seems to be a direct correlation between Judah's unfaithfulness and Egypt's attack. Given how God has worked in the past when his people rebelled, it's possible he has raised up Egypt to oppress southern Judah and prompt repentance. Prompt repentance. That is what... Egypt takes a lot of land, but they don't capture Jerusalem. Shemaiah the prophet lets King Rehoboam know that God is granting Egypt success in their efforts against southern Judah. Finally, the people repent, but God doesn't immediately drive out Egypt. Instead, he says he's going to use the Egyptian armies to teach Judah something about himself. Egypt invades Jerusalem and takes away some of their most valuable possessions from the temple and from the king's house, including their gold shields. King Rehoboam replaces them with bronze shields, which is better armor anyway, considering how soft gold is. Oh. He has to keep his people armed at all times, which proves that the peace Solomon knew during his reign is gone. He has to keep his people armed at all times, which proves that the peace of Solomon during his reign is gone. That is so good. This feels more like David's reign, when there was continual war, but at least David was winning. Rehoboam is losing, but just as his strength made him arrogant, his losses make him humble. And when he's humbled, God relents. Nevertheless, history records him as a wicked king. Meanwhile, King Jeroboam in northern Israel appoints his own priests from whatever tribes he wants to serve in the high places he builds and worships the idols he creates. Appoints his own priests from whatever tribe he wants to serve in high places that he builds and worship the idols he creates. He's like a cult leader, inventing his own religion. pieced together with truth and heresy. He even has people sacrifice to goats, which Leviticus 17:7 refers to as demons. False religions worship demons, regardless of whether they take the shape of animals or mythical gods or even other human-like deities. They're ultimately demonic. They're created beings who have either set themselves up against their creator or who are being worshiped instead of the creator. Today's God shot, and what is yours? Drop it low in the chat. What is it for you? Where are you seeing God in this? When King Jerry takes the people away from King Rehoboam, and Rehoboam wants to attack him, God tells Rehoboam, "You shall not go up or fight against your relatives. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me." Okay, Lord. God says to send his soldiers home because he isn't allowed to retaliate. And Rehoboam obeys. It's reminiscent of a much more significant event in John 18, when the soldiers show up to arrest Jesus before his crucifixion. Sorry, it'll come right back. When the soldiers, can you move your legs that way? Thank you. When the soldiers show up to arrest Jesus before his crucifixion, Peter pulls out a sword to attack them, but Jesus says to put it away because it's all part of God's plan. The Son submits to the Father's will. God's plan isn't always easy. Sometimes he takes things from us or gives us tough assignments we'd rather avoid. But Christ has modeled for us, and even the evil King Rehoboam has modeled for us, how to respond to God's plans. So what she's saying is there's models here that are showing us how to respond to God's plans. We gain things in surrendering to God that we'd never have otherwise. It's all in the surrender. That is a huge piece of Go Get Her. October. You better get there. He can be trusted. He can be trusted. He's where the joy is. That right there is why we have such a hard time, because trust has been broken. God can be trusted. Love you.
I'm not on live, so I don't disturb.
I love you so much.
Thanks. We saw the sunset today.
Sunrise.
Sunrise.
Our first Magnify sunrise. I'm going to
Just
post
only
it.
us. Just only us.
I'll say something real quick. This right here where it says, "As the king goes, so goes the kingdom." So I just think about that as like, as the father goes, so goes the family. As the leader goes, so goes the whatever it is he's leading. Even as the mother goes, so goes you can take that and just, I don't know why that just jumped out to me. As the CEO, so can go the company, right? So all those things, where you are, where your heart is, where you're allowing God to lead you, can affect those that are underneath you, right? In your leadership.
Yeah.
So.
All right, you've got about 2 minutes to put in the chat anything that you want to say, God shots, what you're excited about, what gets no play, anything that blessed you or was a piece of your healing today. There were lots of great pieces in this today. Anything, drop it in the chat, and you're not about to take it off. You wore that shirt yesterday.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Chris is telling D, you wore that shirt yesterday, and he's saying, no, I didn't. Because he ain't trying to take his Giant Slayer shirt off, okay? I need to get you some more cool shirts like that.
Oh, by the way, since we saw the sun, oh my bad.
Go ahead, babe.
Since we saw the sun's down, sunrise, when we saw it, we came back, and when we came back, I was sweating.
I am excited about getting a lot of work done today. I'm excited about preparing the next work to be done on the land. Some of the big things are getting to the end, and it's time to make some glamping tents, party people.
Flex. On my birthday comes, my friends are coming, so yeah.
What gets no play is not getting some kind of closet rods up. And I mean, I don't care if they go all the way across my living room side. I don't care.
Don't care.
I'm telling you.
Don't care. Don't care.
And extraordinary love goes to... I don't know. God will show me. I'm not sure yet. Don't follow people just because they're in leadership position. Measure all against the word and take this cult comparison today as an example. I'm excited to get more for my apartment. Yes, yes, yes. All right. All right. We're closing out.
Wait, no. I'm excited about getting bunk beds. I'm excited about sitting on the bottom bed and not sitting on top. And my excited about is getting Wi-Fi and talking about my YouTube channel name. Look at it. It's gonna be so cool. Look at it. And putting up a TV.
Damn.
And
We're done.
my no play is not being dramatic. My extraordinary love is gonna be JC.
Yes, it is.
Excited about going to get my motorcycle today, bringing it back up here.
You're getting it?
Oh, you're going to go.
Yay! Wait, you're going? I'm coming.
And then getting work done here. So just getting more stuff, making progress every day.
Sunset.
Every day, every day.
Amen. We love you guys. Today was fire, as always. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 7 a.m. Thanks for hanging in there. Notice, as soon as the thing disconnected, we jumped on a new live and you guys got there. We are done being confused by distraction. If something goes wrong, we'll start a new live. All right? Not being dramatic. That's no play for my, that's no play.
That's mine.
That's my no play for today, 2D. That's what Teresa said. We love you guys. 1, 2, 3. He's where the joy is. Have a great day. Bye.